Oh, hey there. I'm just playing morsels, having a good time, you know. Buy the mask? Wait, you're telling me you don't wear a World War I gas mask while you play video games at 4 a.m.? No? Alright, the real reason I'm wearing this is because of Trench Face. What's Trench Face? Well, Trench Face is a survival horror RPG Maker game that takes a lot of inspiration from games like Fear and Hunger 1 and 2. The game takes place in an alternate version of World War I, where all the soldiers are wearing gas masks that are tied to their face with wires and are getting pumped with some mysterious gas that's causing weird things to happen to them. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why don't they just, rip the mask off? Well, one, it's wired shut, like I just said, and two, the only way to actually take it off is with a certain key. So our goal is to find the key to the mask and then find a forest village to regroup with our allies. When you start the game, you get the choice between one of 3 classes, which are Raider, Sniper, and Medic. You can name them whatever you want, but, why wouldn't you go with Ninja? Fuck! Raider is better with close quarters combat, Sniper is better with ranged weapons, and Medic lacks in weaponry, but is better with healing. No matter what class you pick, you always start out with a shotgun and a rock. The game starts in Trench 1, and it's completely empty, aside from barrels that lay all over the ground, which contain items like remains, which are a currency, and scraps, which can be used in our skills menu for crafting things like Molotov cocktails and ammo. We can also find dead cows everywhere that will give us cow leather, which can be used for saving. Throughout the trenches, we'll also find 3 types of doors: red, yellow, and white. Red and yellow doors are for progression and require keys that we saw at the beginning of the game, and the white doors are for a shopkeeper that also lets you save. And the shopkeeper is a cow,
hey people.
And he's like the best part of the game because he doesn't say anything and he just sells you a lot of really useful items. As we explore through Trench 1, we can eventually stumble upon the red key, which I ran past about several times because I'm colorblind and my eyes they just couldn't see it, I guess. Yeah. After we pick up the key, everything will go to hell and we start running into enemies. Enemies in this game work a lot like Fear and Hunger. You're able to target and destroy certain body parts, but generally fighting in this game is a death sentence and should be avoided at all costs. Enemies can kill you basically instantly if you get unlucky, due to the fact that they can attack with all of their limbs. The best way to defeat an enemy is by attacking its chest. If you do that and destroy it, all of the other limbs will die along with it. For our character, attacking with melee weapons requires you to hit a QuickTime event. And it's the same for guns, except instead of hitting just a marker on a slide, you have to hit the bullet markers on your gun. And depending on which gun you use, you can fire more bullets. The 2 most common enemies you'll run into are these soldiers and something that I'm labeling as APLG, which stands for anally penetrating little guys, because Jesus Christ, these things are... They look like they would do that if you saw them in real life. We also find whale bones near the end of the game that look exactly as the name says, and these are a little different, and they kind of act like as a mini boss in my opinion, where instead of attacking the actual body parts, you have to destroy all the wires that connect the skeleton together. With the red key in hand, we can now open the red doors, with there being 2 in the first trench. One door takes us into a little storage room where we get a note detailing someone's last words before they die in the corner. The other door takes us into Trench 2, and on our way we can find a rifle along with another note. This note talks more about the purpose of the gas masks. The soldier writing this note talks about how he hasn't needed to eat or sleep for days, and whatever it is in the mask is keeping him energized and focused. The issue with this gas is the soldiers have been getting addicted to it, meaning that they're stealing it to get a higher dose. Speaking of those higher doses, we actually do find a note later on in Trench 2 that gives a warning to the soldiers who are addicted to the substance. Apparently they're stealing canisters and rapidly switching them to get a greater high, because the mask takes a large dose and kind of trickles it in. The major issue with using a higher dose is it apparently causes faces to melt, with it only showing bone under the mask. In the same room that we find this note, we also find the yellow key and get our first and only duo fight in the game. I'm honestly not sure why this is here. I don't know if it was supposed to be kind of like a mini boss or, you know, just a simple thing, but it's literally the only duo fight in the game. The yellow key can be used back in Trench 1, meaning we need to backtrack until we find the door to Storage 2, where we'll find barbed wire, which can cause bleeding when stepped on, and our first boss, called Mother. This boss actually has a really cool design and a really cool reveal, as when you're walking through Storage 2, you'll hear these weird footsteps, and then it'll charge you. While this boss does look formidable in a sense, it's actually a very easy fight with you just having to shoot the main body a bunch, but it's still cool and adds a little more to the game. After we beat the Mother, we end up in Trench 3 and immediately start hearing our next objective.
6, 4, 9, 6.
This is a number station. These were used to send encoded messages to spies in the field with one-time pads for encryption. I tried decoding the message to see what it was, but I couldn't really find anything because my dumb little baby brain doesn't really understand spyware. The number station is in another trench, and in order to progress we need to turn it off because for some reason the number station is causing these weird masses of flesh to appear that apparently feel like a tongue. When we turn it off, we can get to the village that contains the key, allowing us to remove our mask. Like the note from earlier mentions, the gas will cause our face to melt, so removing our mask shows this very melted, disfigured face. This also causes our worldview to change, where it's now a lot more dark, and even the monsters we've been seeing have changes to them, like the spiked enemies being decapitated. Our final goal is to make it to the forest to find more gas or people. We just find a note on the ground telling us to meet at the forest village. When we make it to the forest, we get our final encounter with an actual person, and he's armed with a flamethrower, and he just thinks that we're another monster, which I honestly don't blame him considering how we look right now. After we kill him, you'd think the game would be over, but we get a final boss that kind of looks something out of Silent Hill 2. This final boss works a lot differently than all the other enemies in the game, as you actually have to destroy the wires that are connected to it in order to kill it. It's the only way to do damage to it. Killing the monster causes us to get the first ending of the game, where we find a kid that was in a closet in the back of the room, and as our player tries to comfort him, he ends up getting shot by 2 other soldiers that are passing by thinking he's another monster. That's the end of Campaign 1, and it leaves a lot of unanswered questions, like, is the gas a hallucinogenic? Hallucinogenic. I know how to speak, okay? But now we can move on to the expansion, which is another campaign that was added later on. Now, I'm gonna be honest, the expansion is significantly harder. You play as a general without a gas mask, who I immediately named Ninja, because gotta represent. Our goal this time is to help our fellow soldier recuperate after running out of gas, so we can both escape. This time, instead of exploring trenches, you explore just one giant trench with 4 bunkers in each corner. One bunker contains keys, the other contains weapons and a new canister, and the other one has a number station. And then the final one, which is actually in the safe room that we're in, lets us escape. You start with a pistol and a knife, and combat is even worse than before. Every enemy feels like a mini-boss. That being said, the expansion does improve on build variety. You can find lock crates with accessories and new weapons, like a crowbar or a shovel. The crowbar is actually really useful because it lets you open those wooden crates for extra supplies, which is generally useful. We also get notes from our player character detailing the creatures and how he perceives them. Now, these notes are actually pretty interesting. They reveal a lot of different things that we didn't really get from the original campaign. Like, do you remember these guys from earlier? The anally penetrating little guys that I mentioned? Well, as it turns out, the only way that the soldiers are able to see these enemies is if they have a gas mask on and are being affected by the gas. That's why in the normal campaign, after we take ours off, they look very different and don't have that giant spike on their head. As for the regular soldier enemies, he describes them as corpses and says that there's not really any point shooting the actual body because it doesn't do anything. These notes are nothing revolutionary. You can kind of garner this stuff just by, playing the game. But it's still cool that it was added just for more context. Now, while we can't explore the giant trench, our main objective is in these bunkers. And while they're not very scary because it's mostly just full of like these suicide rats that will just run into you if they get your line of sight, it does have one very terrifying entity called the horse. The horse acts as a main antagonist for the expansion, and it's a giant, massive skeleton that will roam around the map and will basically kill you instantly if you run into it. It can appear anywhere from the trenches to the bunkers, and the only way to actually escape it is by entering into a new area. Kind of like Resident Evil 2's Mr. X, this turns the rest of the game into a cat and mouse chase, where you never really feel safe where you are. Going through the rest of the expansion, we just need to make sure we turn off the number station and get the key to exit. If you don't turn off the number station, you'll actually take damage during the final boss fight, confirming that the gas mask is actually helping our character not get damaged by the number station. The final boss is against the horse, and this is genuinely one of the hardest fights I think I've done in an RPG Maker game, ever. I spent, I think, about 4 hours fighting this thing, and I was so happy when I beat it. Now, before I finish out this smaller video, I want to say this. I don't think the game is bad. I think it's very fascinating, and the art is genuinely incredible, and I love it. But I have one complaint. The sound design is a little bad. I'm gonna just give 2 examples here. The first being in the first trench in the main campaign. This is unedited. This is what it sounds like when you load up the game and it just plays. The other example is the sound when the horse spots you. I was playing this game at 3 a.m. in a quiet call with a friend, and I just started screaming suddenly because this loud, violent noise that's like 30% louder than everything else in the game just started blaring through my ears.
Skill issue.
Excuse me?
What if you were just extremely bad at the game and you need to get better?
I mean, it's a lot harder than it looks. Like, I don't think you're giving me enough credit here.
Honestly, I just think you're dog shit at the game.
Anyway, you could play as a rat after you beat the game. I guess that's kind of cool. Okay, bye.